You come in, Meg, tell me your problems. I will literally solve them for you and hand you the paper
and
show you what to do. And there was only one problem. Clients weren't following through on the recommendations. Hi, Meg.
Hello, Scott.
Welcome to another episode of Real Personal Finance. Today, we're going to talk about something that you and I have run into over time. We as financial planners, here we are, Real Personal Finance. We try to make financial planning as clear and concise and understandable as possible. Yet in real life, we find that financial planning is messy.
Indeed.
Yeah. So just want to chat through what we mean by that today, where we've come in our careers from thinking that this is just simply a technical answer that we need to provide to people, and the things that we've seen in practice working with clients for a long time now.
Yeah. I think
take it from there.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for both financial planners and consumers to understand that real financial planning is messy. Because I think when we first enter into this profession, certainly if we've gone through any of the sort of the traditional educational requirements that you and I have gone through, you learn a ton of technical stuff about insurance, about investing, about estate planning. You can get very technically proficient in that and feel very good about those technical skills. And I think if anyone, consumers, us, whatever, pay any attention to what is on social media when it comes to personal finance, there's a lot of lip service given to sort of technical optimization of things, how to optimize the tax situation of this or that, optimize your ownership of company stock, optimize estate planning, blah, 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 all making it sound as if it is simply, maybe a complicated set, but just a set of equations that you can solve.
Yep.
Like there
I always think of it as like there's this textbook answer out there that if I just know that answer, my life will be great.
Yeah. If I work hard enough, if I know enough, I will arrive at the one and only answer. And I'm fairly sure you and I both entered this profession thinking that way, because I think most people do.
Absolutely. I mean, the way that we're trained, because you literally read textbooks and study and pass quizzes and then go pass exams, right? You and I both have the certified financial planner designation, which is kind of the gold standard for, do you understand the basics of financial planning in the United States? And we have that, right? So you do all of that technical work and you get to know, to your point, all of these answers for how do you deal with estate plans and taxes and investing and insurance and general financial planning. And then you go like, great, I got it. Now I can go help people.
Right. And then you run smack into humanity.
Yes, that's the problem. It's actually a joy, but it's also a big problem when you're just getting started. Right.
Yeah. We were talking before about sort of how we entered the profession, our sort of light bulb moment when we realized, oh, this technical knowledge I have, absolutely essential, necessary, but not sufficient, as the saying goes. I was in my second job and I hadn't been in the profession for that long, but I had a master's in financial planning. So I was like, oh, dude, crack my knuckles.
Really smart.
Let me at them. And I was in a meeting with the client, with the lead advisor. And I remember the lead advisor had been doing this for 20 years. And I think that the advice was something like, why don't you put money after tax into your traditional IRA? Whereas I was like, why wouldn't you just have them put it directly into a Roth IRA? And there was some more complexity involved in actually accomplishing that. And so, I didn't say anything in the meeting because I'm no fool. But afterwards, I approached the lead advisor and said, you gave the client this advice. It seems to me that the better advice would have been this. And he said, you know what, Meg, you are technically excellent. You know more technical stuff about financial planning than pretty much everyone in the business, including me. But what you need to learn is discernment. And that word discernment has stayed with me. These 13, 14 years since he said it, because he was absolutely right. Discernment in this case is understanding what the human on the other side of the table is actually going to do and understand and feel, and responding to
Yeah.
that, not just textbook optimization.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For me, it was when I started Stone Steps, which is over 9 years ago now. And I was doing plans for the firm I was at before. We were focused mainly on retirees, and I was, almost 10 years younger then. So there's a lot of distance between me and them. And I was normally second chair as well, as you're saying, like not the lead advisor. And so now I was in charge. I'm telling people what to do, right? You come in, Meg, tell me your problems. I will literally solve them for you and hand you the paper
I'm a
and
genius.
show you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And there was only one problem. Clients weren't following through on the recommendations.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is happening here? Like literally, you came to me, paid me to tell you how do you do financial planning to achieve the goals you want. I show you what to do, and then you're not following through on the things you need to do. But what I learned, and that's why financial planning is messy, is that there was actually anecdotally, there was this little anecdotal study done by someone in our space, and it was published in a magazine that we read called Financial Planning Magazine. And then what they did was they asked over 100 firms that do financial planning the way you and I do it. Mm-hmm. So you've done a full financial plan for a client. You come back 6 months later. What percentage of the plan have they implemented? Right?
I think I remember this one. Yeah.
And the answer was something to the effect, I might get it slightly wrong right now because I don't have it in front of me, but it was like, if you say they had 10 things to do, I think it was 20% had done 2 or more things. Right? Oh, yeah. Flip that. 30% had done 2 or more things. 50% had done 1 thing.
Yeah.
Right? And then there was 20% who'd basically done none. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, wait, they're paying for all this stuff, but they're not executing on it. They're not following through. And so that made me realize that financial planning is messy, but it also led me down a path to try to find ways to understand, to your point. I think for us as advisors and for the people at home, whenever you're looking at money, you need to ask yourself, do I have the knowledge to do what I need to do? Do I have the understanding in my life and the way I act in my life to actually follow through on these things? And then do I have the energy to actually follow through on these things? Right? And the reason why you and I are in business is because people often don't have all of those 3 things themselves. If they do, right, they'll do it themselves. If they don't, they'll go find resources to help them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there are many reasons why someone wouldn't follow through on a set of recommendations. Like they might not know how to. I mean, the financial systems out there are stupidly complex and frustrating sometimes.
Yes. The fact that we still can't, when you leave a job, move a 401k to another 401k immediately, and it needs to go by check to someone's mailbox.
Kill me now. Yes.
Bananas. Just one example of the idiocracy that exists in our space.
Yeah. And another big reason, which I know you and I agree on, is simply that we give clients a lot of work to do that doesn't energize them at all. It's just drudgery, right? It's just sort of like financial planning personal finance best practice, as opposed to, you have told me that your biggest dream is to, spend a month in Paris with your family. Now, there are all sorts of financial things we have to do, technical, even burdensome financial things we have to do to get you there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can actually connect those burdensome tasks with something that really matters to you, your values, your goals, your vision of a life that really excites you, that's what makes it both effective and messy, right? It's not messy at all if you're just like, here's these spreadsheets and these calculations, here are the answers, see you later, whether or not you implement. But if we're actually trying to implement a plan that supports this life, it doesn't just support a number, therein lies the messiness.
Yeah, but to your point, 100%, I agree with that. But and also whether you do this yourself at home or you find an advisor to work with, the key thing that I'm hearing you highlight is that it's really all about what does an amazing life look like to you? Because in this instance, you gave an example, right? What is an absolutely what has you jumping out of bed every day, like super excited about life? And then once you know what that is, use that as a lens to look at all the things you need to be doing with your finances to bring that to life.
Yeah.
And that's going to create energy for you because it's an intrinsic motivator that you have that you actually want to do in life. It's not, you need life insurance.
Yeah.
Right? It's you need life insurance to make sure that if something happens to you, those girls can still go on that trip to Paris.
Yeah. Right. And Matt, if you get this life insurance, imagine your children are safe now.
Right.
Right. That hits the heartstrings.
Right.
That pulls the heartstrings right there.
But that's ultimately the key, is that the reason financial planning is messy to me, one of them is because people think financial planning is about thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But financial planning is really a lot more about feeling, right? It's tied directly to what's the life I want to live? What's the life that has me feel that I'm fulfilled? What's the life that allows me to have the integrity that I want to have in my life and for my family and my community? Then you go figure out what to do with everything.
Yep.
And most people have it way wrong. They just go try to find what's that textbook answer for how much life insurance should I have based on my age and my income?
Right. Or I heard that, whole life insurance somehow minimizes my tax bill.
Right. Just don't watch TikTok videos, Meg.
Right. Okay. Lesson number one. But it's, you substitute these sort of arbitrary technical or financial goals for true intrinsic personal goals.
Yeah.
And sometimes I will just say, your goals don't have to be these elaborate, I want to change careers and fly to the moon, blah, blah, blah. It's just, I want to feel secure every morning. I want to wake up every morning and just know things are taken care of so that I can just move through my day with that sense of security, because I grew up in a really insecure environment or something like that.
Right. And the key there, even for you listening, you're like, oh yeah, security, that's easy. Well, the question isn't like for me to go, oh, Meg wants security, I can help her get that as the advisor. The key is for us to have a conversation about, what does security mean to you?
Yeah.
And what does it look like for you? Because it's not the same thing that it means for me. Right. And it's really about helping you define that for yourself so that everything we do in financial planning is for you. And that's exactly what makes it messy, because my vision and my what security means to me is probably different than what it means to you.
Yeah. And this is probably a really good place to mention that, yes, my vision of my values, my vision of a good life is different from yours. But my vision of a good life today is different from what it was 10 years ago, and is different than what it will be next year or in 5 years, certainly.
Absolutely.
Simply because I'm human and I'm moving through life, having experiences that change me as I go.
Yeah.
So this idea is that, yes, we make decisions in the here and now based on what we know about both the facts out there and also what we feel inside.
Mm-hmm.
Everything changes with every moment.
Yeah.
And so it's messy because we're like, well, I thought we made this decision last year. It's like, yes, and last year it was appropriate. Yes. This year it's no longer appropriate because your goals have changed or your feelings have changed or your finances have changed.
I can't recall who said it, but it reminds me of someone. It wasn't in finance, but they were basically chatting to a couple, and they were asking the question to the couple, what do you think your life's going to look like in 10 years?
Oh.
And they both just like start naming the things that, well, it's going to be pretty much like it is now. Yep. But, like, here's the, I'm working a little bit more, working a little bit less. We're going to do these trips. We're going to do that. And then the person asks, okay, now, what was life like for you 5 years ago? And how does it compare to today? It's so different.
Yeah.
It's like we have this ability in our future. We just go, oh, the future is going to basically be the same. It's not going to change.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of the common answer. with some things we want to have done along the way. But then when we look back 5 years or 10 years, you're like, oh my gosh, it's changed so much.
I believe there is a term for that. It is the end of history illusion.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I love that idea because it's totally true. Everyone, including myself,
right,
has that weird disconnect between looking forward and looking back.
Yeah. It's like, so we look back and we're like, yeah, life changed so much. Let me tell you how.
Yeah.
But looking forward, it's not going to change.
Yeah. So all these things I think are really important for all of us humans to recognize when we're dealing with, financial choices, personal finance, because I think we're going to be disappointed or frustrated with ourselves if we think that all the work we do today should just have us set for the next umpteen years, right? If we recognize that, no, we're making decisions today that just get us to the next stage of our life, and in the next stage of our life, we'll reevaluate and make a new set of decisions based on a new set of inputs. If people embrace the fact that that is in fact the right approach,
right,
then I think they'll be much less frustrated than if they're like, but I got this one-time written financial plan in a 3-ring binder from a financial planner 5 years ago. It's totally useless to me now. It's
right.
like, yeah, but that's by construction. It couldn't possibly still be useful to you.
But you literally just nailed it though. And the reason why is because a financial plan is finite and it has precision built into it, and everything's going to go exactly as is.
Yeah.
Financial planning is recognizing that, yes, in a financial plan, we make assumptions about the future. But then with financial planning, a year from now, we come back and we say, what actually happened?
Yeah.
Do we need to make changes on our assumptions to help us hit our goal that's 1 year closer because of what just happened in the previous year? Did our plans change? And now what we want out of life is different, right? Like before the chat, or today, we were chatting about how we've had clients who run into, health scares. And all of a sudden, what they thought the plan was changes.
Right out the window.
And then sometimes it changes for one of the spouses and not for the other. So then that creates a tension, maybe even a conflict that they need to work through. And, that's part of the job that we get to have, is helping them figure these things out.
Yeah. So if someone is working with a financial planner or wants to work with a financial planner, what sort of responsibilities or roles do we think that a true financial planner shows up with? Because both you and I entered the profession knowing about the technician role, right?
Yeah.
We know all these facts and these numbers and these textbooks, all these objective things.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely a role. A teacher, a technician. This is how after-tax 401k contributions work. This is what happens when you exercise an incentive stock option. Just these objective facts. We have to know them. We have to teach clients sufficiently about them so they understand the implications of any of their decisions. So that's one role, a technician, but we've just spent 15 minutes talking about how that's absolutely insufficient.
Yeah. The other ones that come to mind for me that are top of mind are one of our jobs is to be a coach, kind of an accountability partner. I could think of it that way, right? Like, I know I always performed better when my coaches were around than if they, you might slack off a little bit if they're not around. So maybe that's, we've talked before about selling stock, and maybe we have that schedule we're going to sell on now. Someone's going to help make sure we're actually doing it, right? We're actually executing. That's something that's a big help to a lot of people. I think another one is just being an advocate for people. And in a sense, you're doing a couple of things there as the advocate. You might be advocating for them with other people in the finance space so that you're helping solve problems that they kind of don't know how to solve.
Right. You're working with an insurance broker to get some life
people
insurance.
Or estate planning attorneys or CPAs, because they don't actually understand what a Roth conversion means and did they file an 8606, right, which is super technical. But I think another one that's really important, I think it has two sides to it. One is being a thinking partner, which is really just helping people have conversation to process ideas and what they actually want to do. Rather than just step in as the technician first. Be a thinking partner first, which also on the other side of the thinking partner is be a great listener, because people do a wonderful job of processing while they're talking, and we don't realize it. But you see, you and I see it in our business all the time, right? That by posing questions that are open-ended and giving people a chance to have conversation, they will start coming to their own conclusion really quickly. And then we can obviously step in with our technician, coach, advocate slices to help them where needed.
Yeah, I think if someone out there is working with a planner or wants to work with a really a true financial planner, I think that good listener role almost underlies all of these other roles of advocate, coach, technician, because it's only through truly listening to someone that you have a good chance of figuring out what they need in the moment. Do they just need a shoulder to cry on? Do they actually need some information because they're suffering from ignorance? Do they need someone to just hold their hand while they sell the company stock because the interface is intimidating? Do they need to be called on their shit? Like, are they consistently doing things to undermine what they've told you is important to them?
Oh, 100%. That's my favorite from a friend of ours, Carl Richards would say, show me your checkbook, which no one has a checkbook anymore, right? But show me your checkbook and show me your calendar and I'll show you what's important to you.
Yeah.
And so you tell me that hanging out with your children is so important to you, yet you're traveling all the time.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like being the person that kind of is in the room and says those things to people where most people aren't willing, don't necessarily have the space or the ability to say that. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the most influential moments in my life as a financial planner, which had, at the surface level, nothing to do with money whatsoever, at least, was a woman client of mine. I started working with her when she was in her upper 30s. And she said at the time, one of her goals was to become a mother, but she'd really like to have a partner. She was single at the time. And several years go by and she's still talking about how she'd really like to have a baby. And by then, like, the partner thing hadn't happened. And in one conversation, she brought it up again. And I just said, hey, we've discussed this a lot. You've mentioned your desire to have a kid for our entire relationship. But I haven't seen you do anything to actually make that happen. What's up? Like, has your goal changed? Do you still want that? Sort of an open-ended, like, born of curiosity and care, not judgment. And ensued a pretty intense, not particularly comfortable, if memory serves, 20-minute conversation about how, yes, it was still, in fact, her highest priority. And she just had to admit to basically not actually prioritizing in practice.
Yeah.
And I just held up a mirror to her. But all this came because I was listening to her say this over and over and over again and seeing, and I think within 6 months she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And it was and now she's a mother and her baby's adorable and she loves it. As I don't know how single moms do it because I was a wreck for having a partner in the business. But I was like, that had nothing to do with your deferred compensation plan or your savings strategy or your estate planning. But if there's one thing that I brought of value to this relationship with you, it was that. It was whatever amount of help I gave to you.
Absolutely.
In having your child.
I mean, the thing is, you and I both, we do financial planning, but we focus on the humans.
Yeah.
And then we focus on the money.
Yeah.
And sadly, that's kind of rare in our space, right? Most people in our business, especially the ones down more off, I'm being generic here, but normally if it's a big name on a big building downtown, they're going to focus on the money more so than they're going to focus on the human. And what you did was you focused on the human and what matters most to them.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Tangentially, there's money related to all of that.
Yeah.
But it's also related to what's the best life look like for this client? What do they really want out of their life? And so you're in a space where you can actually say something about it. And that's why I love financial planning because, I could never remember the studies that have done this, but I know a number of studies have where they'll ask the question of if someone walks up to you and asks you about your intimate life or about your money, which one are you going to be willing to talk about? And people will almost always say they'd rather talk about their sex life than their money.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so here we are in a space where we talk to people about money, which is this kind of space that people just don't touch.
Mm-hmm.
But then we're also allowed to, in that space, be great listeners, understand what matters to people. And by doing that, we can help them move forward in their life to live the best life that they want to live. And so I love that you did that with your client. I think that's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty pivotal. And, nothing messier than having a kid. So, it all comes back to the idea that financial planning, personal finance is messy because it involves humans and human lives and human emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, good stuff. While it is messy, I would say that the thing I would think about if you're at home and like, well, what do I actually do with any of this? Thanks. Because it's so many good little stories today. But it ultimately always comes down to what are the main drivers in your life? What are the values that you live by?
Mm-hmm.
And then use that as a lens to make choices rather than just running up and making choices because they've come at you. Right?
Yes.
I think that's just so helpful. And it's easy to forget because it's easy to want to keep up with the Joneses. And, the Joneses started investing in, the restaurant down the street. So should we invest in the restaurant down the street? Well, does it help you in the life that you want to live?
Yeah, unfortunately, real financial planning is not clickbait material. Mm-mm. And what gets your attention in the world at large is clickbait material.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Meg.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time.